let's get to it. I'm Jimmy Nitro. Welcome to my video of how to assemble the Toyan L400. Shoutouts to Sterling Engine. They provided me with this engine. This engine is a special one. So this Toyan engine has had many problems. There's been issues with customers breaking crankshafts. Had a few issues with water pumps. So what makes this engine so special is the fact that it has something in it that I haven't seen any of these engines have yet. Has this center bushing support. Now, isn't that thing beautiful? It is. There's no upgrade that you can buy to get this that I've seen. I also didn't have any instructions on how to put it in. I have seen this design before, and the person that made it was a gentleman named Chris Barn. Had made a very similar floating bushing design that fit right in the middle of this block to support the center of the crankshaft to prevent that from breaking, which has been happening to a lot of people. Now I think a lot of people gave up on this engine. I knew about the problems that this engine had, but I still wanted it because it's just a beautiful engine. All my life I've dreamed of owning an engine something like this, and there's never been anything on the market even remotely close. As you can see, it just sits in there. Has two halves. One thing I noticed was one side was ground down, the other side was a little bit shiny. So when you're putting these two pieces together, you want to make sure that the two ends match up. So you have either both shiny sides on the same side. You don't want to have mix match, because when they make these things, they're all made as one. You don't want to mix that up. Now I have more than enough assembly lube, so I don't need to go in here. Normally what I would do is I would be taking, a little drop of assembly lube out of the syringe here, and I would just wait till it touches on there, let it seep into place. It'll kind of just do its job and run all over the place there. As you see, it'll start to spread, but ultimately once you put it on, it just spreads nicely all over. Now this kind of floats in there, so you definitely need to have this support bar in there. When you're putting that in there and you see that it doesn't line up, it doesn't want to go in, all you have to do is just separate the block just a little bit and then push while you're separating. And then it'll drop right in. And then make sure it's nice and flush. You don't want to have like one side sitting up or anything. Always make sure everything looks good before you put anything together on these engines. So I just wanted to show you guys that center bushing support. I thought it was phenomenal that it was included in my engine. I wasn't expecting to get it. That's what makes this even more awesome, is the fact that I wasn't expecting it. I didn't even know this was really out there. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know you could buy it. Nothing. And here it is. Uh, blew me away when I got it in the mail. I honestly was expecting to get an engine that was probably going to be just a paperweight, just plagued with issues like all the rest of them. But I have a little bit of hope now. I'm for the first time thinking that I might have a really good engine that I can play with and install into a pretty cool 6x6 RC. That's what this baby's going into. But now that I've showed you, actually before I screw this on, I wanted to show you that third bushing there. Also, I wanted to show you guys something else. No, I almost forgot to put that on without the gasket, so like, watch everything. Yeah, I like to wipe everything down. Make sure there's nothing. No point in putting something back together that's dirty. Anyway, just do a little clean off. Now, back to what I was showing you here. Okay, we'll get back to that in a minute. Now, another thing I noticed too, in the instruction manual, it's very easy to skip over this instruction in the manual there. So what I found in the manual is there's this little lubrication hole right here on the connecting rod. So I put a little arrow next to it so you can kind of see it better. But that little oil hole, according to the instructions, should be facing where the carburetor assembly will be, which means that these little alignment marks that you see, and you'll have to excuse my printer, it seems like it's I need to go and clean all the printer jets, but if you see these two alignment marks, that means that you should have these alignment marks facing to the back of the engine. It's not very clear in the instructions, but if you follow what's going on in the instructions, you got the oil hole right there, and you can see there's the the marks there on the two halves. So if you're looking at this picture there, and you look at how this is placed, well, those two marks are towards the back of the engine. There's the front, and the oil hole should be facing the carburetor. I just wanted to point that out there. I've noticed some guys putting them in so that all the marks are facing the front of the engine, and according to the instructions, that's wrong. Now, I don't know if that's going to create a problem for this engine, if it's going to get the correct lubrication, but and I'm just not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but I did make it so that all my marks are actually just facing to the back there. So I just wanted to quickly point that out before I close everything up. That was one of the things that kind of got me stumped a little bit. As for being an RC guy who used to race these 1/8 scale buggies and play with monster trucks and pretty much everything, I know how important that lubrication hole is, and you want to make sure that you get it in the correct location. Whether it's truly important for these engines to have that to have that oil hole in the position of the carburetors is another story altogether. Personally, I don't know, and it's really hard to get this information out from Toyan. But I'm gonna follow the instructions. The instructions tell me, you know, to put that oil hole facing the carburetor assembly, and that does kind of make sense because when you're revving up this engine and the rotation that the crankshaft is going, as oil is dripping down and whatever is not burnt is coming into the crank area there, that's going to get picked up on the crankshaft, and as you speed up with RPM, that's just going to take that oil and force it down the hole, which is pretty neat when you think about it. But it's going to use that centrifugal force of the crankshaft to force oil into that little hole, lubricating the connecting rod and keeping everything nice and lubricated. Now, I don't know why I'm not using my wonderful little drill for doing this part. It definitely makes things a lot more easier. No, I don't want to go super tight on anything. I'm just gonna go finger tight, drill tight. I have a torque setting on here, but I also hold it loosely just so that it can spin out of my hand there